All right. Hello, everyone. Tuning in. All right. Piling in. This is going to be fun. I see some of you who were just on our trainee roundtable. Welcome back. Welcome back. Good morning for some. I will say this probably a few times because there's going to be more people on suit, of course, but Jen is dedicated to you guys. She is currently in Hawaii and it is 6:15 in the morning. So if that ain't love, I don't know what is. Do me a favor, just because she might not have gotten to meet you guys yet, and it was earlier in the month when Jen was on. Let us know where you are tuning in from and what are your credentials if you have any. And if you don't have any, that's totally fine too. I know some of you can now add FDN in training to your title. That's been pretty cool to watch throughout the month. We have Tabitha. She was ready. Tabitha, you rock. Nashville, nurse practitioner, had to come back for Jen. That's awesome. Julie Johnson said Illinois FDN trainee. Ayana said North Carolina. That's awesome. I'm actually I might be moving there myself pretty soon with my wife in the next few months once we are back from some travels. Cyrus said Central Texas, no credentials, no worries. Haley said Haley from Texas, FDN student and bachelor's in integrative health. Haley and the like, I wonder how many of you at this point I really could just recite from reading it so many times because some of these I just know. We got Tracy, North Carolina, FDNP, Erica Duffy. Hello, Erica. Chicago, Illinois, FDNP. I know that. Holly said, I lost some of you guys. Holly said Iron Mountain, Michigan, Minnesota, MI, FDN trainee, former biochem professor. Oh, now I seem even stupider knowing she's a biochem professor. I didn't know the dang state. Kim, White City, Saskatchewan, Canada, registered nurse, health coach, and added on FDN trainee this month. That's amazing. Jen, you could see a lot of these. Any ones stick out in particular that are cool to you?
I mean, all of them. I want to go one step farther because this is going to help me as we go through the training today, though, just to identify you guys. Can you guys just real quickly go up to your name in the participant thing? You all should be able to do this. And when you hover over your name, you're going to see the option that says more. And then you can choose to rename. And I want you to put FDNP at the end of your name if you're already an FDN. If you're part of the community, if you've jumped in, because that'll help me when we get into questions today to know, like, just how to like kind of tailor the conversation and the answer to questions based on who's asking it. And yeah, so if you're an FDN, go ahead and put FDNP in
just for grads or
your
trainees
name.
too.
Trainees also. Yeah,
Okay,
if
that's what
you're
I
in
thought
the
you meant. Right.
community at all, if you jumped into the course already this month, if you're just getting started, go ahead and claim it. Claim your name to fame right now. Put that FDNP in your name, please. That will be super helpful for us.
I'm not seeing the option once clicking more. It only has captions. Jen, it is webinar, so I don't know offhand if they might not be able to change.
Okay. If you can, dang. All right. Maybe not. I can see the rename, but if you
Yeah,
can
so
figure
can
it
I.
out,
I
that's
can do it as a
helpful.
panelist.
Okay. Otherwise,
You
we've
guys
got
are
you in the
you guys are
chat.
yes,
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah. Good. Good.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
They're in the chat though with it. Thank you guys. You rock. All right, I'm going to read Jen's bio in case this is your first session tuning in with her. Maybe you tuned in late last session, then we'll get into it. Different session today, so it's not a repeat of last time. We're doing different stuff. It's cool. Jenn Malecha, the holistic health boss, helps career-driven, results-focused functional health entrepreneurs make 10K or more per month quickly by finding their ideal clients with a start-to-finish approach for building, pricing, selling, and efficiently delivering their programs so they can scale their impacts and income. As a health business advisor with over a decade of business and project management experience, training in FDN, and transformational coaching, Jenn has helped hundreds of functional health practitioners create profitable practices that allow them to heal hundreds of people while working less and taking better care of themselves. And then through her holistic health boss health coaching brand, she also supports busy, health-minded professionals in taking back control of their health by giving them access to the right lab tests and resources so they can find the missing pieces of their health puzzle, actually fix what is wrong, and get back to feeling like themselves again. And I am very fortunate to say that one of those people that is career driven that she helped is my very own mom, which is awesome. And then the whole reason I'm here, somehow it never gets old to me, Jen, like the fact that we're doing a webinar right now together on FDN. And Jen is the reason that I'm in FDN because she was giving a talk 7, 8 years ago now in a coffee shop in San Diego to like 25, 30 people. So welcome back to Summer Open House. You were definitely a fan favorite. So you're the only one that was back by popular demand, which is awesome.
I love being here within my community. This is like one of the best parts of just being an FDN is this amazing community. And it's my family. I've been here for so long and I'm excited to come back. So I also just popped another question in the chat, you guys, and this will help us today too, like to really dive in to answer the questions for you all is, I'd love to know, like, who here is still considering joining FDN and has really specific questions for this topic today that's going to help you possibly decide, what you're going to do. So if you want to just put me or yes in the chat, because I want to make sure that we get to those questions for you guys to help you understand, because I know FDN is just doing like the most amazing like opportunity to enroll this month. And if there's something that you're still like have lingering in your head about FDN, about pricing and packaging, or something else related, Tabitha, I see it's you, then let us know, because we're here to talk about package and pricing, obviously, and to show you how you can have a business, but we can also answer any other questions that you have. I mean, you guys, I've been doing this forever. I just got to talk to like one of our FDNs that graduated in April the other day. And, we were just talking about like getting started and what it's like and getting out there and being able to like guide people is what I love to do. So that's what we're here for.
And Jen, you know what I
Awesome.
didn't even ask you before we got on together is, were you planning on questions only or slides? I'm prepared for both.
I have no slides. We're
Perfect.
going to just go rogue today.
Yes, got it. Awesome. All
Yeah.
right, so let's just dive into it. And guys, this is one where you are actively invited to participate. Remember, Jen's taking the time to be here. It is really cool to be able to extract information from her brain live, and for free. So that doesn't happen often. So you might want to do that if you can. I will start though just by getting us on the topic today. Last time, you gave us this amazing focus session around niching. And what's so cool, Jen, is they really got this solidified for them throughout the rest of the month because there's a lot of regular attendees. So you were one of the first, but every six-figure FDN that came on, the only thing that every single person had in common is they said, if I didn't niche down properly, I do not think I would be at the six-figure mark, possibly at all, let alone how fast I got there. And so it was cool for them to get to see all these different speakers because you couldn't make this stuff up. All of them said the same thing, despite their different strategies afterwards.
Mhm.
I'm sure you probably have things to say about that, but my follow up eventually for that will be pricing and packaging is a whole different skill. It
Mhm.
can be related to your niche to some degree, for sure. Maybe less so pricing, but certainly how you structure the packages or even name them per se. But I think it's going to be less about that today and more about the mindset and all the things that go into the work that you do as a health coach or FDN practitioner and how to package and price accordingly. So, one, I could see your eyes light up. So, do you have any comments on the niche thing first?
Well, I just want to say that I'm so glad that was like a resounding like message that everybody here that's attending received, right? From every single person who's been successful in their business. And like the thing about that, you guys, is that this is true for every single business and industry. If you want to like read more about this, if you just feel like you need a little bit more like information behind how this how it orchestrates your success, you can read books like Good to Great that came out like, gosh, early 2000s. That was like super popular. And it talks about the companies that survived the recession in like the 80s and the 90s and what happened there and how they niched down in order to be able to do that. And then there's like marketing gurus and geniuses like Seth Godin, who I often quote, who talks about like niching into 3% of the marketplace. There's a newer book that just came out that I've been obsessed with for the last, I don't know, year or so. It's called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And that is by Dr. Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And it's all about niching down and really getting into your zone of genius. And I know that that feels really challenging sometimes as a health professional because we want to help everybody. But the reality is that when you're doing that, you're actually serving no one, right? And this is, I was like, as you were talking, Evan, I might pull up a visual for this that I show people because your niche is the guiding light in everything of your business. And it does actually dictate what we're going to talk about today in terms of packaging and pricing.
Very cool. Again, do we want to start with the higher? I mean, there's already questions coming in, but I feel like some of it would naturally be talked about. So, do we want to spend some time in the beginning, kind of letting you do your thing for at least 5 to 10 minutes before they come in, or do you want to dive right in?
Well, I saw one that is actually going to kick us off here.
Okay.
Carol had a great question. She's like, when you first start out, how do you start to price? Would it be something like X% about the lab cost? No. Okay, guys. So here's the thing. We're going to start here, Evan. It's just going to build upon it. I think we'll just go into questions because I'll bring it all together for everybody. So here's the thing. You guys don't make money off of the lab tests. Like the lab tests are not the value that you bring to the table, right? Like anybody can order a lab test anywhere. As Reed Davis says, like anybody can order a lab test, but not everybody knows what to do with it. And that is like what you get to sink into as an FDN is like when you go through the FDN program, you're getting this full methodology. It's like a way of thinking and the tools to go along with it, which is partially the lab test, but we also get other tools outside of the lab test that help us do our work. And so this is the pitfall, right? Like this is the pitfall in when people go see other practitioners. Like in my health practice, you guys, most of the clients that come through my virtual health practice have already been to multiple integrative, functional, holistic, otherwise, types of health professionals. And they've already done lab work sometimes and the same lab work that we do with FDNs, but they're not getting the answers to their health issues. And so it is not about the lab costs. We're not just marking up the lab costs. We really want to sit down and go, how do we transform somebody's life? Because you are in the business of transforming somebody's life. We are in the service industry, not like a restaurant person, like a server, right? Or a waiter, or I've just been on a bunch of flights like a flight attendant, but we're in the service industry. We're here to transform somebody's life. And a lab test is going to give us clues. It's going to give us data. It's going to help us transform somebody's life. But it's all the work that comes out of that lab test that's actually going to help to curate the transformation. So what we want to first start with is ask the question, how are you going to transform somebody's life? What is the journey that you are going to take them through that is actually going to help them achieve their goals, right? Achieve their health goals. And this is where we can really lean into the FDN methodology that gives us this guiding post, this duplicatable process that works for every single person that comes in our practice, even though we're niched down into a specific area. It is going to help us understand what are the steps that I'm going to take somebody through from start to finish that's actually going to transform their life. And when we know exactly what those steps are, now we're going to know exactly what to put in our packages and then how to price it. So I'm just going to pause there before I get into any more detail and Emmett, let you kind of jump in and see if we want to work in some more questions here, and then we can kind of keep moving.
Sure. Well, I love how you help them focus on this idea of the transformation because guys, this is where the pricing makes so much more sense. And I mean this seriously. She always gives me permission to share this and would say it if she was live. Like when Jen worked with my mom, for example, and not every case is this extreme, but a lot of them are. My mom, the debate wasn't, can we get some health issues under control? It's not like a minor annoyance that's like 5 to 10%. Like it was a family discussion. Like, is this person going to be in our lives in another 5 to 10 years because of how sick they are? Like they might lose their life early, right? There's no price that you can put on that, right? And that doesn't mean you have to charge $1 million for the coaching either. That's not what we're saying, but there needs to be something there that actually allows you the time and energy to perform that transformation that you know that you can give that person. Because I think you worked with my mom for 9 months. It's a long time, guys.
Mhm.
If you think about it, that's a fraction of your life that you spent working with this one particular client, and many others at the time, of course, too. So I like that we're already in that mindset. I did see a bunch of people just say, sorry, that's from before because they were saying that they're looking into the FTN course, but no questions
Mhm.
from them. Okay. I mean, Carol had asked, oh yeah, that was the question that you did. So then Julie
Yep.
said, how to price when we are new as an FDN, one offer or multiple offers. And I do think maybe this is where
Yeah.
I think
I'm
you'll
gonna
nail a lot of questions just by explaining it the way you normally do.
Totally. I'm going to share my screen and give you
Thanks.
guys some visual stuff. And like, even though this is a talk that I do a lot of times, because honestly, this package and pricing kind of concept is probably the thing that I talk about the most that blows people's minds. I mean, aside from the niching part, we already did that part, right? So first and foremost, here's a visual aspect to help you understand that your niche, this is where we start. Your niche is the guiding light. We want to think about it like the gut. Like we think about the gut of health is the cornerstone. It's where we absorb nutrients. It like helps everything else in the body work better, right? So your niche is like the gut of your business. And we can also think of the niche like lab tests. Like when we do lab tests, we're collecting data and insights that help guide a protocol, right? We use an FDN, as we say, we like do the lab test and we collect data. And then we use that data to guide recommendations for diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation, and toxin removal. So your niche is going to guide the protocol for your business also. Whenever you have a question about marketing, packaging, pricing, like enrollment conversations, anything else that you're doing, the answer always comes back to your niche. Always, every single time. So when you're feeling like you don't know where to focus or don't know what to do or not things aren't working, we have to go back and reference the niche, right? So here's what happens is when you are niche down, you are then attracting a common person that has common problems that needs similar solutions, you guys. And so when we intimately understand who this person is, then we know exactly what they need in order to achieve their health goals. Like we know exactly what lab tests to run in the beginning. We know exactly what lifestyle topics that we need to address with them all along the way. And by the way, every single one of you is unique in here, even though a lot of you in the chat had like similar credentials. A lot of you are in FDN already, there is something that is unique about you and that's also unique about your ideal person, like your niche too. And that's going to come into play when you put your packages together, right? Like we're using FDN or we're using our current base of knowledge as like that cornerstone, that framework to construct a package, but we get to blend in our uniqueness along the way as well too. So I'm going to skip through. Let's see if I can get to the slides. We already talked about niching. Let's get to the program packaging. Okay, so here's the like when we know exactly who the niche is, this ideal person, like I said, we know intimately who they are. So one of the pitfalls that a lot of like practitioners and coaches get stuck in is that they are customizing all the time, or they are chasing symptoms and treating things specifically, which we know as FDNs, that's actually not something that we want to be doing, not only from possibly a non-licensed perspective, but also, as Reed Davis says, is that when you are chasing symptoms or treating things specifically, you're leaving a bunch of stuff on the table. And this is actually one of the current problems of even the functional medicine space, you guys. So this is where we have to get out of that allopathic mode of thinking. And we really want to put our, what we call an FDN, our metabolic chaos glasses on, our lenses, and we want to look at the whole person. And so when we look at the whole person and we know who this niche is, we know exactly what series of labs. So when I, start with somebody, I'm always basically hitting the big FDN, like 5 areas or so that we talk about. So I'm always running a lab that's going to look at hormones, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy, and nervous system. We call that, our acronym is hidden stressors. So I'm collecting data and insights from all aspects of the body that are related, and I'm using labs related to this unique niche person. So what does that mean exactly? Well, let me tell you, so in FDN, when you go through FDN, you guys are going to learn about the MRT, food sensitivity test. Absolutely love the MRT test. There's so much science around it. It's a beautiful test. I used it for a really long time. It's actually wonderful. When I really honed into my niche, I started to realize that, oh, the Cyrex Array 10 actually correlated stronger with my unique ideal person because I work with people that are on the autoimmune spectrum usually, or they have an autoimmune condition. So that Cyrex Array 10 really helps me see like a pattern of lectin sensitivity, molecular mimicry that's going on, and helps guide the diet for that specific person. It's not that the MRT or the Cyrex one is better than the other. They actually have 2 different modalities of testing behind them, of science behind them. But again, this is where we bring it into the FDN methodology, right? It's a way of thinking and the tools to go along with it. So we learn in FDN how to utilize different lab tests to partner and accommodate with this FDN methodology. And for any of our, I didn't see in the chat, Evan, if we had anybody here like internationally, But like our international colleagues and members, community members know this because not all labs are available internationally. So they're learning the FDN methodology, understanding their niche or their area, and using labs that are accessible in their area, which FDN does help to facilitate in order to collect these data and insights, right? So point being, let's bring it back to the package concept, is that when you're clear on your niche, you know who this person is, you know exactly what labs you need to start with every single time. There is no customizing. That is inefficient work. It is not necessary. It's chasing and treating, right? So we know here's where I'm always going to start. Here is my first line of investigation. I'm always going to start somebody here. When we also know who this person is, we're going to know exactly what types of sessions that we're going to have. There's different types of sessions. Did you guys know that there's different types of sessions? Like, throw in the chat, what do you think the different types of sessions are that you might have? And I think that some of our FDNs in the community might know what I'm talking about here, because they're very, very aware of the different types of sessions that we get trained on. So I say that there's at least 3 different types of sessions, right? So first type of session is an FDN, what we call a results review session. So this is where you get the labs back in, you're gonna, analyze them, put it together a summary, probably put together your protocol recommendations, and then you're gonna meet with somebody for, let's say, like an hour to 80 minutes in order to go over that stuff, right? So results review session, one type. Second type of session is what I call a reassessment session. This is the thing that people forget all the time, don't even think about to include in their packages, but is absolutely critical, is a reassessment session. So what does that mean? That means that, we are having milestones in the program, work with them where we are reassessing their progress. So as FDNs, one of the ways that we do that is using what we call the metabolic chaos scorecard. So if you guys are an FDN, you're familiar with this, you've seen the metabolic chaos scorecard. There's actually like columns on there, right, where you're doing multiple tests over time, reassessing them, and it's tracking their total symptoms. And we also have the adrenal stress causes, which I love as well too, which then is measuring the inputs of stress, right? So every so often, you should be reassessing somebody with some type of tools. And if it's relevant at that point in time, you can also do retesting as well too. But this is where, like, as Reed talks about in FDN, like, we want to be checking in, we want to be measuring progress and making course correction when needed. So if that person is not making progress in the way that we would expect them to, we can make adjustments, or maybe they're like right on track with something. It's also how we engage the client in the work, and we show them on paper that they're making progress, because they always underestimate the progress that they're making. And we also re-engage them in the work during that time, right? So that's the second type. The third type of session is going to be your ongoing, like we can call them lifestyle or coaching sessions, where now that's where you're meeting with them every so often in order to teach them how to change their lifestyle. Again, this is a huge pitfall in the current even functional integrative holistic medical model right now, you guys. This is where people are going to like when they come through my practice, they're like, yeah, I met with this person, I got a 30-page, report on all my lab tests, all the stuff, and recommendations for diet, and then, was told to make an appointment in 3 months or 6 weeks, and they feel overwhelmed. They don't know how to do it. Like, it seems really logical and easy for us because we've already done it, but they don't know how to do it. They actually need accountability and support. They need guidance. This is where you get to step in and be the expert guide, right? So now you can see, when we know exactly what types of sessions we're going to have, what is needed to facilitate the change and transformation. Now we can also consider how much time each one of those sessions will be, because this is different for everybody. Like, if you're niched into a space of somebody that's dealing with a lot of brain fog, a lot of overwhelm, something like that, like may not have the mental capacity for an 80-minute results review session. They may not have the capacity for a 45-minute ongoing lifestyle coaching session. So when you know who your person is, and remember, you're a reflection of your niche. We talked about this before. Like, what would their capacity be? Maybe it's 25 minutes. And also, here is a best practice rule of thumb is that you never, ever, ever make your session time up to the hour or up to the half hour mark. Why? Because we need that little bit of wiggle room in between, right? We need that little bit of wiggle room in between so you can take a bio break in between appointments. We need that little wiggle room in between so you can prep for the next session in case you're running over. This is a very common practice in other industries. We see it with massage therapists, acupuncturists, personal trainers. Like their sessions are never 60 minutes, right? If you're going to go get a hour massage, you're actually on the table for 50. It's not a 90-minute massage, it's 80, right? Because they want that transition time in between. So super essential. And then we know, also how much time you would spend outside of sessions. Like how much time do you need to prep for the stuff? When we know exactly what labs are included in the package, guess what happens? You can estimate your time on what it's going to take in order to review all those labs and put together a protocol. When you're customizing, being an order taker like at McDonald's, you can't estimate that. You're never going to be able to predict and cover your time. And your time is the value, right? It's the wisdom, the years of experience that you bring. And then you can also think about what other unique skills do you bring to the table that are going to facilitate this. So, for example, with me, I am trained in neurolinguistic programming, NLP. So when I work with people, I blend FDN. So I'm doing FDN with them. And I'm also then bringing NLP, which creates the total transformation. So I have specific lifestyle topics on diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. And then we move into some of the NLP work as well too. So Ev, we can pause here and see if there's any questions specifically around this. I'm just flipping through some slides here, you guys, to give you some context.
Thanks.
So
No, I think we have plenty for a conversation right now. And it's so awesome. You guys must love Jenn and love this topic because we've always kind of been sitting around 80, 90 for each event, but we're back up to 115. So glad to have you guys here. Real quick, just housekeeping stuff. Some of you guys asked for replays. We said it wasn't available. You're saying it was. They are not available. That's correct. We're not permanently doing replays. That is true. By demand, we have some on YouTube from this past weekend. They're only going to be on there for a couple more days or whatever the team decides. So I have our YouTube right there. You can check it out. Make sure you're subscribed because we might end up replaying some things this upcoming weekend. And we have plenty of good content there anyway. And then also last housekeeping thing is please block off 2:00 Eastern Standard Time, 11 Pacific for Friday, June 28th, where we have our keynote presentation with Jennifer Woodward. They're like the two best gens in all of the world of FDN. So you guys will love her too. All right, what do we got here? A lot of stuff. There was one I wanted to get to right away from before. It was talking about, I think there's a bigger conversation here, but it was, are some niches more profitable than others? And I would actually really be interested in how you handle that question in this space.
Oh gosh, I honed in on that question too. And the thing is, Julie, is no. It's all the same. They're all equally as profitable when you know how to actually niche into that space. So here's the thing, you guys, is that weight loss and gut health are not a niche. That is a category. So within that category, you still need to get clear on 3% of that category that is your niche, right? This is where on the last one, we talked about psychographics. So traditional niching is where health professionals get a lot of resistance because it's so focused on demographics. So condition specific, age range, gender, blah, 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 right? And in my practice, I don't niche into any specific condition at all. We can then leverage psychographics. So psychographics is who innately is this person? What are their behaviors? What are their qualities? What are their characteristics? What is the experience that they're having in life that is aligned with you that makes you specific to them? So here's an example. I was mentoring another practitioner the other day, and she has been a critical care nurse, like the ones that are in the helicopters that come in and do the first responder rescue kind of helicopter thing. And she encountered her own health journey as a result of that. And now she's starting her own virtual practice, basically, as a practitioner like us. And so when we got to talking about her niche, like, think about that experience. Think about that experience of being a critical care nurse and the amount of sympathetic fight or flight state you are constantly in all the time as a first responder that is having this impact on your personal health, right? And then on top of that, you're like, maybe not thinking about your food quality and like all these other things are going on. So she had gut issues, she had skin issues, blah, blah, blah. And now she's resolved all those things with her tools. So her unique niche is what we came up with is that busy, adventurous, like healthcare professionals. She knows their life more intimately than I ever would. I've never been on a helicopter. I don't know how to like get into a sympathetic state in that type of environment, right? And so she is uniquely experienced in order to help them like stay in that career, but do it better, right? Because we need those first responders. We can't tell everybody to leave and become an FDN. Like, who's going to come save us when there's a critical accident, right?
Mhm.
But like she is uniquely designed to with an experience that's similar to theirs to give them the tools and to be their expert guide. So that's where like that's what we're talking about in niching into the space. It's that 3% of that marketplace that is a reflection of you and your experience. What is all this wisdom and experience that you've gained over the years in your life that somebody else needs to, basically? So this is a great question because I saw this in my business coaching group the other day. Evan was like, somebody was saying like they're listening to some other business and marketing trainings, and somebody else is telling them that like you can't sell preventive care. BS. I'm calling BS on it.
Yep.
I am preventive care. Like none of my people come to me critically ill. I'm working in preventative care, basically. And we are in, I think I said this last time, is that we are in this unique moment in time that like normally it takes a catastrophic event for somebody to like want to change their life. And as a result of the pandemic, the entire world just experienced a catastrophic event. And I bet every single one of you who already is into health was questioning how healthy can I be? Because I know I was questioning it.
Mhm.
And I was seeking out more and more of what I could do for my health, right? So we 100% are able to sell preventative care, any other kind of care, like every single type of niche is profitable.
Yeah. I love that. It's so true. I ended up, I know you know this because we're on Facebook together. I ended up, you guys will think I'm crazy, but maybe not this group. So I love like light circadian biology. The COVID thing that I did is I did camping for 2 months straight just to be like living outside, basically. I'm like, I'm going to be ready for this thing. I don't care if you shoot a jab at me, give me a virus. I didn't care about either. I'm like, I'm going to be ready for both of them. And I'm still here hosting. So it worked
Mhm.
out. All right. Bhavna had asked, this is a really cool question. How do we inform the client and ensure they feel that the transformation will be real? People might have gone through many other programs, and maybe the health symptoms didn't get better or they
Mhm.
came back. And I think this is a question about truly it's about sales, right? Like, how do you actually sell
Yeah.
this idea that you're the one to be able to do this? Because we might know we are, but how do we sell that idea with our packages?
Yeah. I mean, great question because my package for just to give some insight to this on where we're, where the transformation happens and like the level of what I'm bringing is like my total transformation package that I work with somebody for 9 to 12 months is $13,000, right? That is an investment in somebody's health. It's valuable. And here's something else I want to lend you guys. Like I heard this originally from Sasha Patel, and I know that he got this from one of his mentors. I don't know who it came from originally, but it was like so good. Something cannot be valuable and expensive at the same time. Something cannot be valuable and expensive at the same time. So our job is to be able to explain the value of working with us. And this is something that I teach. I'm going to teach in the workshop that's coming up that we're doing, something I teach in my business essentials program as well too. I actually give you a script for how to do your enrollment calls or what we call discovery calls, because people do not, as Bo Eason says, people don't invest in your credentials or your resume, right? They're not buying logistics from you. People invest with emotion. They invest with connection. And so we need to be able to explain to them clearly what the transformation is going to be exactly. And when we use all these, we can't use all these fancy words. We can't use like MRT food sensitivity testing and functional diagnostic, blah, blah, blah. And like all these things, like we have to be able to speak to them at their level. And so this, again, I'm going to tie it back to guess what? Your niche. We know who the niche is. We know what words they're using to describe their problems, what solutions they're looking for in their words. We know what they need. We have to like talk to them in terms of what it is that they want, right? And be able to prove that to them. And so when you know how to language that, I mean, there was somebody in our group the other day that came in and reported they like sold a $12,000 package. And they said that they had used the script that I gave them, and they didn't even get to the pricing point. The guy was like, "All right, enough already. I'm in. Just tell me how much it is." Like, was just like ready to enroll. And I say that because that is the example of when you're able to speak to them in terms of value and transformation, you're easily enrolling clients,
Mhm.
right? And you're easily communicating the difference of working with you versus what they've experienced before in the past,
Yeah.
basically.
And Jen, I'd love you to correct me if I'm wrong here, but Rhett and a few others had kind of maybe asked for some clarity around the valuable and inexpensive thing. So this is kind of a common thing that's used in the world of marketing to explain stuff. It's like, what if I had a supercar outside, right? Brand new Rolls Royce. And now I told you it's $25,000 if you buy it right now. So statistically speaking, and I think the problem is most people associate expensive with a certain price tag, but that's Jen's saying that's not true, because statistically speaking, a fraction of the world does not have $25,000 in disposable income. That's true. But if I know the Rolls Royce is worth whatever it is, 400 or 500 grand, and I know you're selling it for 25, now I'm calling up my friend. I'm calling up Jen first. That's who I'm calling up. I'll be like, Jen, listen, I'll go get this car. You send me the 25K. And then we get that car because we know we can sell it. So when you say, you know, it can't be valuable and expensive, what you mean is that it's not that the price becomes irrelevant. The number, I should say, becomes irrelevant
Mhm.
if you're providing enough value, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Hope
yes,
that
yes.
makes sense, folks. Okay, a lot of different types of questions here. I'm just trying to keep it on track the best of our ability. I think this one was good. Well, yeah, Holly had asked this while you were talking about the difference between category and niches. Like, would you mind listing off like a few examples, maybe even of some of your clients and stuff, like your business clients, of what are examples of niches then, just to be really clear?
Yeah, it's getting into that more of that psychographic side. So remember, like if you guys missed it, I'll say what my niche is again. So my niche is a busy, health-minded professional who's looking for the missing pieces of their health puzzle so they can actually fix whatever's wrong and get back to feeling like themselves again. I said nothing about a condition. I didn't even say anything about an age range or a gender in that, right? So it's like broad in this one perspective of demographics, but it's also super narrow in the experience of that person that is aligned for me. And that's who I was, right? I gave you the example of the critical care nurse that's turning into a practitioner. So, she's helping, busy, adventurous healthcare professionals who want to decipher their symptoms so they can perform at their peak in any aspect of life. Like it's really interesting when I go through this process, and we're going to do this in the workshop for those of you guys who are a part of that coming up, is really get into like what is the intrinsic motivation, like understanding like this person, like this critical care nurse. I'm like, well, what do you love to do like outside of work? And she's like, I love to paddleboard and go hiking. And I'm like, and she had like, tattoos, like she kind of looks a little edgy, adventurous. And I was like, guess what they also want to do, right? Like the symptoms are limiting and holding them down, but this is what they really want. Another really great one that I did recently was a practitioner who was retiring from her first career, and then becoming a practitioner in this space is going to be her second career. And she had worked in like accounting and financing, like in the corporate world, and a lot around like retirement planning and stuff like that. And so we helped her get clear that her niche is in that space of people who are currently like in that like maybe midlife area where they're planning for their retirement. They're looking forward to that. It's coming up soon. And like we talked about, like, what is the point in putting away all this money if you don't have your health to enjoy it when you're retired?
Mhm.
Right? Or the people who have retired and they have all this money, but they can't fully experience life because of their health is limiting them. So that's kind of her niche area. And then what's super cool about this, Ev, is like this is a perfect example of like when we get niched in like this so clear, we came up with a laundry list of possible partnerships with her. I was like, think about all the retirement planning people that you could go partner with and tap into their clientele and say like, hey, let's talk about health and wealth. right? Like, what is the true definition of wealth? Like, it's having health and financial wealth,
Mhm.
and bringing her in to do talks and with their clientele that's already, planning their retirement or managing their retirement, and that she gets to bring in this health component to it. So that's when we get so clear on that niche, how it helps to see how it just helped to guide that process of like, how do we speak to them? Where do we go find them? Who do we partner with? And then, of course, as we're talking about today, how does that come into designing your profitable packages, basically?
Yeah, thank you. I do want to address this one because T asked, so why is MRT chosen as a foundational test versus Cyrex or A10? Okay, so T, it's a good question. And just to go back to what Jen was saying, I've actually used this quote inappropriately, or I shouldn't say inappropriately, but I've butchered it quite a few times this month. So I finally looked it up before these sessions because I wanted to know it. So it was Picasso who said, you got to learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. And what that means is FDN, in my opinion, what it means is that FDN, if you don't know this stuff yet, you gotta have the foundations that you're working with. And generally speaking, MRT would be an awesome foundational lab and would work in a lot of cases.
Mhm.
To Jen's point, she's the artist now, right? And I mean that seriously. She's worked with so many people that she was able to see, well, you know what? This is a good rule, but I can kind of bend this a little bit like an artist because she understands her unique clientele. And I've said this about my clientele. I attract a lot of mental health people because of doing mental health speaking. And I have personally found I do like to know some of their genetic SNPs because I can find that I can support them very quickly if I know that. And supporting someone with mental health issues, especially if they're severe, can be very useful for both of us. But I didn't do that until 6 years in to taking clients. Like I didn't understand that I could kind of bend that way until then. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that. We can skip it if you want, but I just wanted to make sure why they understood or what you were
Yeah,
saying.
I think that so the thing is, you guys, there's like so many lab tests out there on the market these days, and they're all wonderful. Like they can all provide so much data. I mean, aside from MRT, Cyrex, there's like Vibrant has all their Zoomers. There's like we use finger sticks in some place, so it's not then like. And here's where I really want you to lean into is that it's not about treating or chasing symptoms, right? It's about metabolic chaos. Like that's what we know as FDN, and that's where FDN is a methodology. So it's not the methodology is not about the specific lab that you run. It is the way that you think. And so we can use and we can always start with. So like back to that question, the part of how I came to the Cyrex conclusion was I was always starting with the MRT. So remember I said like when you put your packages together, you've got your first line of investigation. Like here's the labs that I'm always going to start with, right? And then I talk about the second line of investigation. So as we know, like as Reed teaches us, when you put together a dress protocol, um, you do these like, your first line of investigation, a series of labs to look at the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy, and nervous system, collect data insights, use that to guide recommendations. There is reasonable expectation that somebody is going to improve in the next 90 days. So this is actually going to answer the reassessment question that somebody had. How often am I reassessing? So I'm usually reassessing around that like 90-day mark. And I'm going to flip that for you guys. Like, because one of the things that I talk about with packaging concepts is breaking free of time frame specific and actually doing it based on total number of sessions so that you have the flexibility to meet somebody where they are. You're not constrained to a time frame of like meeting once a week or twice a month. It's going to limit your capacity. So I do it about once every 6 sessions. We're doing the reassessment session. So as you're moving through this with them, if like when we're doing this reassessment, like I said earlier, if they're not making progress in the way that we would expect them to, we want to course correct. And in those moments, to help you course correct, you might want to now go back into your toolbox and pull out what I call like your second line of investigation. So this is where I started to play around with like running a Cyrex test. Like, well, let me look at a different analysis of food sensitivities because you guys, these tests are two completely different tests. MRT is looking at inflammatory markers like cytokines and things like that. Cyrex is IgG, IgA, like food antibodies, right? Two completely different things. And so depending on the person that you're working with, you might get different insights. It's just like stool sample tests are also different, right? We've got PCR tests, like that's what the GI map is, or we've got microscopy tests, which is what Genova uses a blend of, and you can get different data insights. It's not one necessarily
Mhm.
one that's better or worse than the other. It is what do you need for your person? And the other thing that I talk about with putting your packages together, and this is when you know your niche space and also know exactly where and how you want to work. So we use that as the guidepost is one of the reasons that I use some of the tests that I do is for accessibility standpoints. Like, is it easy to run outside of, within certain states, within international, blah, blah, blah. That helps you decide what tests as well too. So back to the thing I'll wrap this up with you guys is that there's so many different labs. FDN is teaching you a methodology. It's a way of thinking. And yes, we're learning a foundation of labs that everybody should get started with coming out of the course. That's exactly where I started. And then the beauty of the FDN community is that we have access to other labs and we have access to ongoing education and support. So I really talked about this in my first talk. Like one of the things that we have access to is our clinical advisors. And so I just started to like play around with other lab tests. I was curious about myself, like doing a neurotransmitter test or doing a mycotoxins test or doing an oat test or doing a Cyrex test or whatever it was. Started to play with that, learn about it through our clinical advisor sessions, and be able to recognize what did I need to swap something out or was everything good? Or like, what would be my second line of investigation? So I'll give one last example. We'll move on here is the organic acid test, I would say is like this trendy, bright, shiny object that a lot of people talk about. And repeatedly, you guys, in my niched area, oat test is not helpful. Not helpful. Like never, it is not worth the time or the money because it doesn't actually attend to my specific niched area. Isn't that interesting?
Mhm.
Now, other people like our wonderful Brendan Vermeyer, who was probably on at sometime this month, who niches
He'll be
into
on soon,
like,
yes.
okay, who niches into like mental health specifically. And he's a super wizard nerd. That test is super helpful for him in his niched area. So the niche thing, I know we're here to talk about packaging and pricing, but the niche thing really matters. And also just leaning into the FDN methodology. It's a thought process with the tools to go along with it. Okay,
Thanks, Jen.
off my soapbox for a moment.
Well, the attendees are still here, so they must have loved it. There's been a couple questions that kind of all lead to the same thing. So Cheryl, I see you, and then I forget who else had asked something similar here. But basically, they were talking about. I mean, one of the questions was as direct as how do you prevent clients from contacting their credit card company to have payment stopped or reversed? Others are asking about payment plans and like how do you get them to commit to that? And I think that's a bigger conversation, right? Like we're assuming and acting like
hmm
mass amounts of people are refunding the stuff or chargebacking, and that's just not the
hmm
case. So can we touch
It's
on that?
not, it's definitely not the case. And this all comes back to how clear are your niche? How well are you communicating the value of the investment? And also the other thing that we learn in FDN is that you are interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. You should not be taking everybody to work with you. And so if these things are happening to you, if people are doing chargebacks, refunds, whatever, you are not clear on the niche. You're not attracting the right person in to your practice in the first place. And secondly, you are not qualifying them well enough to work with you. So that's on you. You've got to go back to it, right? And we can use these insights to help us learn in these experiences to get more clear to avoid those problems.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And so again, guys, that'll be something that you'll see as you take on more and more clients, but it's not the case. You can I know Jen, you love this stuff too. There's even like you can find your favorite personality typing system or systems and you can use that. Like I genuinely love that stuff and I think it kind of helps me predict is this person ready to take action today
Mhm.
and actually do the stuff. So okay, awesome. A lot of people have asked about replays. I'm not I actually genuinely I can't make a call as to whether or not this would be replayed, but I don't see why it couldn't be one of the replays in the weekend. So that's all I'll say for that because they got very mad at me last time, guys, for saying yes every time, and then our team had 10 videos to replay. Okay, so
I do.
Cassandra said, oh yeah,
I do just want to say, like, we're obviously only have like 10 minutes or something left. And there's so many questions here. I would love to just drop. I do have a package and pricing like worksheet or formula because we're
sure.
not going to get to all the details today. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat and everybody can grab that and see some of the intricate details of what we're talking about.
Thank you. That sounds good. And then I will try to get a good one here while we're moving. Um, okay, so someone had asked, I hope we can multitask here. Oh, perfect. In your packages, are you walking your clients through dress in this order, or do clients dictate what they want to cover in each session? And just so you guys know, dress is our, let's just say it's our lifestyle teachings at FDN. It's diet, rest,
Mhm.
exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. So how does that work?
Okay, this is a quiz. Who's been listening? What is the answer to this question, you guys? Who can drop it in the chat?
That'll actually be good.
Who knows the answer to this question? It's super simple. It's like 2 words. What is the answer to this question? It depends, kind of. I'm in charge, not the client. So, yes, you want to position yourself as the expert guide. Good job, Cheryl. Awesome. And it also depends on your niche. So, this again is when we intimately know who this person is, what their experience is, Gemma. We have the tools, we have the construct, the framework of diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. The order in which you address those things or the detail of the subtopics in which you address those things are going to depend on your niche. I know you guys are probably so tired of hearing me say that, but for example, like I do start with diet because the experience of my person and my niche person is that they're already doing Whole30, AIP, paleo, carnivore sometimes, keto, and they're not getting the results that they're seeing everybody else get. And so that's their primary frustration. So I need to address their primary frustration immediately to build value with them and trust so that when we get to like some of the less exciting topics like stress management, meditation, toxin removal, they are already so bought in to what I do because I have been attending to their specific needs all along the way. They're totally open to doing anything I tell them to do. And I actually break down the concept of diet into 1, 2, 3, 5 different subtopics sometimes. So this is where like in my total transformation program that has 18 lifestyle sessions, we're going through 5 of those are diet subtopics, right? And then in my intensive program, which is 12 lifestyle sessions, we're going through about 3 subtopics of diet. And then I move on to sleep. And the reason that I didn't move on to sleep next is because my people are already super active, like they're marathon runners, CrossFitters. And part of the problem is that they are depleting their body so much with exercise because they're not eating right and they're not sleeping great. So in the results review recommendation session, I dial back their exercise, tell them I want you to do low intensity walking, yoga, lower intensity stuff until we get supplements, your diet fixed, and sleep back on track. And then we move into exercise, and now they're ready to ramp up their intensity again, right? Because they're covering those foundations. So your niche is going to be the guide. And I know, and this also is the other part of your question, I know exactly what topic I am doing at every single session because I am the expert guide and I know what they need. And of course, when I show up in that session and I have that topic ready, if they need something else in that moment, I'm going to meet them where they are, right? This is also where we get to be nimble and flexible to help them.
Yeah, it's kind of a perfect timing question. I just want to do quick housekeeping before we hop off here in 5 minutes. And just so you guys know, Jen, if you tuned in late, she's actually doing this while in Hawaii. So it is not early there. It is 7:10 a.m. right now there. So she started this at 6:15. We are going live at 11 p.m. Pacific time, 2 Eastern time today on Instagram. I dropped a link below. That's with the founder of FDN. We're doing an Ask Us Anything. You can literally ask us anything about the FDN course. He's a great guy to ask. He kind of created it and stuff. I also reposted Jen's package worksheet link so you can see it there. But Jen, well, the question that I said was perfect timing is Julie asked you, does your coaching teach only business or also how to coach? Kind of like what you were talking about now.
Mhm. I totally teach on the how to coach concepts, right? Because I think these are the things that I knew I wasn't super sure of coming out as an FDN of like what to say, how to do it. Also, we want to strike this beautiful balance of like not like giving them education, but not overwhelming them with information, right? So I do teach this structure in there as well too. And I find that, and I think a lot of you guys are resonating with this in the chat, is the other thing that's really helpful is that when you have a blueprint, this roadmap of like, I know exactly what's included in my packages, everything from the labs that I'm starting with, the types of sessions, the time, like the number of sessions when I know exactly what topic is going to happen, your confidence level instantly goes up because you're like, "Oh, I can see the road ahead of me. I like know what's happening next. I'm not questioning or second guessing myself." Right? And so this is so critically important to help you guys actually get out there to build your confidence, or if you're already in practice, to grow your confidence even more and work more efficiently, because now you have a blueprint that you repeat, and this creates the foundation to be able to scale with freedom. So when we know exactly what our niches, our packages look like, have this blueprint, it lends us the ability to then template, delegate, and leverage systems to automate. This is how I have 14 active clients right now in my health business. I've got over 300 people in my business coaching programs, and I'm sitting here on this presentation with you guys in Maui because I have template delegated and automated everything about my business to be able to have that freedom and scale.
Awesome. I think a good final question here for you, because it was just from before, and I think it's worth mentioning. So, like you talked about the 9 month program, which is, like you said, a good investment, but you also give a lot in that. So, I'm curious, and I know a lot of people ask this in various ways. Like, what does someone actually get for those 9 months? How many times are you meeting? I think if we could just revisit that, I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but that'd be great.
Yeah. So it's a 9 to 12 month program, right? Because we're breaking free of the time frame specific. So what I want you to anchor into is that total transformation. You guys are going to see this in the package worksheet if you click on the link and opt into that. To grab that, it is a total of 21 sessions. So it is 3 reassessment sessions that's happening like once every 6 session milestones, right? And then they're doing, we have a results review session, and then there's like 18 lifestyle sessions that's happening. So when I first start with somebody, I'm meeting with them every 2 weeks. Again, I know this like cadence because of my niche that this works for them. Some of you might be weekly, some of you might be every 3 weeks. And then at about like 4 or 5 sessions, when they're doing better, then we start to space out every 3 weeks and then towards the end every 4 weeks. So that's why this package will last somebody approximately 9 to 12 months specifically, right? And we always start by creating the biggest package first like this, because this package is now the framework and how I've created a mid-tier and a lower tier package. So when I know the most ideal, biggest way that I want to work with somebody, I can now distill that down. Say, okay, what are the most essential elements that I want that are going to go into my middle package? And then what are the most critical elements that I want that are going to go into maybe a smaller package? Like my Jumpstart program is, it is 2 reassessment sessions, a results review, and like 5 lifestyle sessions, basically, right? So we know how to distill that part down. And then from a payment plan standpoint, most important is you always want to collect payment before all services are rendered. I do not recommend that you do like a monthly payment when you're doing these packages, unless you're going to use a third party service like a firm where you're getting all of your payment up front and then you're using them to collect upon that. If you're doing your own internal payment processing, then the way that you want to break down your payments, and this again helps when we know the detail of packages, you want to make sure that your cost of goods, like all the costs of the labs and any onboarding time, is covered. So like in my packages, maximum, they can break it up into like 4 payments. So when I break it up into 4 payments, that makes sure that any of my overhead expenses for labs, welcome gift, any of my onboarding time is covered, even if they were to totally go abandon, MIA, card defaults, like whatever happens, right?
Great. And that takes us right to the minute. So, guys, can we
Oh,
just get a thank you for Jen in the chat? Because I mean, she's doing this at 6:15 to 7:15 a.m. while on what should be a vacation. So, Jen, we really appreciate you sneaking this in. I'm sorry that we can't just stay on for hours with Jen and do questions. Hopefully, you guys got the Fast Act bonus that we did a few days back. So 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 45 minutes from now, we're on Instagram, instagram.com/FDN training or just at FDN training. We'll be doing an Ask Us Anything with Reed Davis, founder of FDN. And then tomorrow we have plenty of sessions. So make sure you check your calendar. But just the first one we'll be doing is, it's cool. This is unique for the month. We haven't done this yet. We're going to be doing Quick and Nerdy. And what Quick and Nerdy is it's something that's normally only available to graduates. So even trainees, you can hop on this and enjoy some of the content. And it's very high level stuff. That's when we do, as the name implies, we get very nerdy on a very specific topic, but we keep it relatively quick. We don't keep it for 3 hours. We do it, I think it's normally in around 30 minutes to an hour tops. We do have 90 minutes allotted for that. So I don't know how long that one will be. But then we have plenty of other stuff tomorrow, six-figure FDN stuff, international replays. We got a lot of cool things going on. So Jenn, thank you so much. I know that there's a bunch of people that are going to be in your workshop in the upcoming month or so. And I know they're like very excited for that. So I can't wait to see what the results of that are.
So excited for that too. And you guys can come connect with me on Instagram. Just go
Yes.
ahead and ask me some questions in my inbox and the DMs over there. I will be online for the rest of today. So thank you
Holistic
guys.
Health Boss on Instagram with W. So Holistic Health Boss. Okay. Thank you so much, Jenn. And I'll see you guys at 2 o'clock Eastern on Instagram with Reed. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.